Okay. Welcome everyone to Gentle Restorative. I was just explaining that we're going to be 100% restorative today. I don't know, I'm tired. And I just feel like there's been, it just seems like every day it's like, oh my God, what's next? What are we going to hear next? What are we going to be impacted from next? And I feel like this week has kind of been that way energetically. And it doesn't matter how much we try to withdraw away from the world or the news or whatever, we're still influenced by the collective nature and the collective consciousness that we're living in. And I want you to remember that when we work on ourselves personally, we are actually helping to improve the collective. You know, Mahatma Gandhi used to say, be the change you want to see in the world. And if we want the world to be what we want it to be, it has to begin inside first. And Deepak Chopra always says, happiness is an inside job. So we have to work, especially now through these challenging times, to reclaim our right to experience joy. We have to reclaim our sense of freedom wherever we can find it, because more and more restrictions keep coming upon us. And we just need to know that we can experience inner freedom. We can experience inner peace. We can experience inner joy despite the chaos and the noise of the world. And that's what yoga and meditation was meant for. That's why it was created. And that's why we come to practice. So yes, we move our bodies to get our bodies like mobile and to lessen the tension that we're carrying around. We use the breath work as a way to connect to the inside, to our true self, to our true nature, to a higher power, if you believe in that. And we also use the mindfulness and the focus required in this practice to help to slow the wheels of the mind down, because the mind can turn against us sometimes. You know, we tend to fall sometimes into judgment about ourselves or others. We sometimes are, you know, being critical of ourselves or others. And we need to recognize when we start to get on that hamster wheel or go down that rabbit hole, that we do have techniques and tools available that we learned in yoga to divert away from that. So we have been doing a series based on a piece of yogic philosophy called the kleshas. And the kleshas are something mentioned in the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras. And it says, life is suffering, but suffering can be avoided. And that is the light of hope. And it gives us tools and techniques to work with to lessen the impact of those disappointments, losses, and suffering. It puts it into 5 different categories. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the first one, which in Sanskrit is called avidya. And avidya means ignorance or illusion. Right now, we're going through a time period where we don't know what is fact or fiction, what is true or not true. It's like we're trying to figure it out. And that's where everything kind of gets gray and muddy. And so I feel like it's personally nice to just hold the space for it all and to be neutral with it all and not be so opinionated towards one stance or another, because in that lane of being neutral, then you can maintain that peace and joy a lot longer, because you're not going this way or this way. You're just staying in your own lane. So avidya is about not knowing. You know, ignorance is just not knowing, right? Not knowing the true state of ourselves, the true state of reality, not knowing the actual facts, or having the evidence right in front of us. So we all have that veil on us. It's just part of the human experience. The second one we talked about last week is ego. The seat of the ego in yogic philosophy is here in the solar plexus. This is our place of power, where we can also get disempowered. This is our place where we muster up inner strength and perseverance. And when we have an abundance or excessive energy here, we can have an inflated ego, you know, thinking that we're better than, trying to maintain control over other people or over the situation. If we have a deficiency of that energy, we feel less than, we feel insecure. There's a lack of confidence. And so we need to strike and find a balance with the ego. Because the ego is good in some regard to give us motivation and to forge ahead, but the ego also can be a detriment as well. So the third one we've talked about this week is attachments. Attachments is called Raaga in Sanskrit. And attachments are things that we can't help not to form, right? Because we have attachments to our past. It's our roots. It's our conditioning. It's where we come from, right? So there's a sense of safety with that. But yet as we age and as we mature and as we go through our own life experiences, we discover that, well, you know, just because I was conditioned to think this way doesn't mean it really applies to me now, right? I'm an independent person. I understand where they're coming from, but this has been my experience. And so you can actually evolve beyond that, right? We've all done that somehow, some way. But also with attachments, we can have attachments to think about this, because Monday we talked about attachments as far as people, places, and things, right? We can get attached to where we live, right? Think about someone who grows up and this could apply to you even, and it's okay if it is, but someone who is born and raised in the exact same place, and then they never leave that area, right? They never break away from that. They probably have a really strong attachment just because it's familiar, just because they have all these memories attached to it, just because it's all they know. But then you take that person and then you take them somewhere else to a different location, to a different place. Well, now they're having to live in a new home and they're having to figure out the culture of that place. And they're trying to meet friends and they're trying to figure out like their path with career and, you know, making connections. So there's all these attachments we have to untangle in order to start fresh and new. Think about our heartstrings. We talked about that on Monday. You know, as mothers, as fathers, we're having to constantly let go a little bit more, let go a little bit more. When we get a babysitter, you have to let go. You're not in control in that moment anymore. When you send them off into the school system, when they get married, when they go off on their own and create their own family, right? It's a constant state of detachment, even though we have our heartstrings attached to them. So what I want you to think about today, as far as attachments go, we know we have attachments to people, places, and things, possessions, but I want you to consider attachments can tend to keep us in our own comfort zone. And if we want to grow, if we want to evolve, sometimes we have to break out of that comfort zone and do something new, do something challenging, or do something that may be a little fearful at first, you know, stepping out and just discovering what is possible. So it's breaking away from it. And this is something I want you to think about too with attachments, because we didn't talk about this Monday. Think of the attachments people have to their trauma. And how with trauma, we can play victim. But think about if we're always playing victim and we're always attached to that trauma, to that person or situation that happened to us, we're staying stuck. We're stuck in the past. We're stuck to that person. We're stuck to that emotion. We're tied and tethered to it, but we don't have to be. So the point of yoga and meditation is to go in and to do the self-study. What am I attached to? And I've had a lot of trauma. You guys know some of my trauma. I'm very open about it. And this practice has helped me to open and expand my heart so that I can forgive the people that harmed me. I may not want them in my inner circle, but I can forgive and let go and not hold that grudge. And that's something I want you to take from this practice. Let your hearts expand and open. Let your minds expand and open. Wasn't it Maya Angelou who used to say, when people know better, they do better? And it doesn't give the excuses that people should go out doing all these bad or evil things, but lots of times, hurt people hurt people. And if we can open up our hearts to feel that compassion, then maybe we can get beyond our traumas. So I know that's a lot. That's kind of heavy to sit with, but it's an important thing to sit with because the goal of yoga is to free ourselves so that we're not bound by those things. So we're going to be restorative today because the reason why I want to be 100% restorative, detachment is the art of letting go. And in restorative yoga, we're letting go. So that's what I want us to begin with. We're going to get right into a position, okay? So in order not to confuse you, because I see a couple of new faces in the room, take your bolster down your mat. Donna, you would be perfect. You're going to be front row here. Take your bolster down your mat so everyone can see what I'm actually behind you, like towards that wall, sorry. And then your feet towards me. Yeah. All good, all good. So your feet are going to be angled off to your left side. Your bolster is going to go down the lane of your mat where it's touching your right hip. We're going to get right into a twist, okay? So as you inhale, lift up to the crown of your head, create a really long vertebrae, and then start to wind and rotate around towards the bolster. Walk your hands down beside it and lower to your chest and turn and just attempt to rest on your left cheek. And if you're resting on your left cheek and if it feels like it's too much for your neck or your low back, you're just going to swap and flip over to the right cheek instead. Okay, so the right cheek is a little bit more gentle and you're welcome to go there. Now notice your arms. Are they hugging close to the prop? Or is it possible to slide your arms out and let your shoulders relax? Let your upper back broaden. That's it. Because think about in our culture, we tend to hunch the shoulders. And it's been a little chillier outside. And so with that cold temperature, we even tend to bring the shoulders up towards the ears. And when we're stressed, we bring tension into that area. So relax it. And as you relax your body, feel how your body's contorted in this twist. And know that the twist is offering you so many benefits. It's good for the endocrine system that regulates hormones. It's good for the skeletal system, at least through the vertebrae, because it's like a natural chiropractic adjustment. I got 2 pops when I demonstrated the pose for you. It's aiding to the digestive system, squeezing, rinsing, and soaking out the abdominal muscles and organs, helping to move things along. And it's also good for cleansing and purifying the respiratory system. So let's focus on that. Notice your breath. If you've been softening your muscles and relaxing your body, it may be barely flowing, and that's okay. But your mind may be busy. So if your mind is busy or distracted, start to merge with your breath, becoming one with your breath by controlling your breath. Taking in a deeper, longer inhalation, as well as a longer, deeper exhalation. Notice, even with your breath, you can't cling to it. You can't cling to the inhalation because you will need your exhalation. You can't hold too tightly on your exhalation because at some juncture, your body's going to encourage you to breathe in. So even the art of letting go can be found within the breath. When thoughts swirl up to the mind, release and let it go. When an emotion wants to tug at your heart, release and let it go, at least for now. Give your mind something to center on. I want you to focus on taking 12 breaths. And they can be controlled or just observed. Slide the hands in. Push down through the palms and slowly press up. When you come up, let's go ahead and open up that left knee. Bring the soles of the feet together. And we're going to take a quick pose here. As you inhale, lift up to the crown of your head, and as you exhale, hinge forward towards your hips, coming into what we call Baddha Konasana. So notice if you collapsed in your chest or belly, you want to maintain good posture as you fold. You want to feel as though you're still lifting your heart up and out. And then just checking in with your inner thighs and hips to see how open they are, how much you can descend. There's no goal in mind. I want you to think about how expectations that we put on ourselves for others can lead to the suffering of attachment, right? We're attaching ourselves to what we think should happen or what we think we should be able to do or accomplish. So just be honest with yourself. I'm going to affirm mentally within, secure in myself, I accept whatever is. Slowly start to elevate yourself back up. Bring your right knee over to your left. So you're basically turning to face the other direction, but it's the same approach. Inhale, lift up to the crown of your head. Exhale, start to wind your way around towards the bolster. Walk your hands beside it. Bring the belly face down, the chest face down, and at least attempt to rest on your right cheek initially. But that may not work for you and your body. If that's too much, or if you were on this side before, equalize the stretch in your neck and maybe turn the opposite way. Again, noticing the behavior of your shoulders, it may be habit for them to kind of scrunch in. So spread the shoulder blades away from each other. Let your weight plummet down onto the prop. And just nestle in. So I mentioned several benefits of twist before, but I want to mention it also helps to trim the waistline. It also helps to bring the energy higher to the brain. So work with that energy that's naturally rising up towards the mind. Decipher and discern wisely which or if any thoughts you should give life to. And then the ones that don't pertain to the now or have an answer for you, try to let it go. Try to move into the space between the thoughts. And you can use the power of the breath to do that. Controlling the breath can minimize a restless mind. We used a couple techniques to keep us focused on that previous twist. On this side, I want you to tune in to either the inner Om, if you are at home. And if you're here in the studio, I want you to tune in to the sound that you're hearing playing from the speaker. It's a mantra, Om, that is being chanted. And this mantra of Om represents the sound of the universe. Reciting or listening to this repetition is also one of the techniques mentioned in the sutras that can help us to obtain inner freedom and inner peace. Just by replacing our thoughts with the mantra. So feel free to recite it silently in your mind. Next inhale, and slide the hands in closer. Press them down into the hands, peeling up away from the top. And turn to face in a moment. And again, you can bring the soles of your feet together. I just want to show you, instead of folding forward like we did before, I just wanted you to see, we're going to go into another pose of restoration where it's bringing the bolster between the knees. We're going to lift up and fold over it. And you can, some people like rest on the ground, but my nose is too big. So it doesn't feel good to me. But if you have a smaller nose, it may be perfect. You may want to rest again on one feet, and then I'll give you a signal or let you know when to swap to the other side. Go ahead and take, this is restorative child's pose. So go ahead and settle in. I like bringing the big toes together to touch because it closes a circuit or a meridian line for the liver.
I'm not sure.
Over your knees. Let's do this. If you have trouble with your knees, you can do this one here, where you're still folding forward, but it doesn't have all that flexion. I'm going to be playing a new mantra in the background called Raaga Dasa. This mantra has its roots as a healing mantra. Yeah, keep going. Is that better? Ra represents the sun. Ba, the moon. Da, the earth. Sa, the infinite creator. The Sa Se Soham, she calls that mantra with, means may we merge with the infinite one that created the sun, the moon, and the earth. In that mergence, we feel connected, we start to feel whole, we begin to feel contented. We have a chance, an opportunity to heal. Healing and overcoming these attachments, these human attachments. You've been resting on one side of your face, turn to the other, balance it out. This idea of the art of letting go doesn't just show up with this topic in the Yoga Sutras. It also comes up in the topic of the Eightfold Path of Yoga under a subheading called Parigraha, where we observe what we're grasping or clinging to, and then learn the fine art of letting go. Buddha once said, you can only lose what you cling to. Or mentally within. I'm withdrawing from all activity in the outer world so that I may return to my inner haven, peace and freedom. Ready to slide your hands in, closer to your shoulders. Press yourself back up. We're going to take the bolster behind our backs. So if you grab just one blanket, you can determine how you want to use it. But if you grab two, try this out. Take one blanket on the back side of the bolster. That will be underneath your head and neck. If you feel like you need to get a little warmer, you're going to cover your body with the second blanket. Just cover up, just like you would in the evening. If you feel like, well, I'm warm enough, but I want something under my knees, you can take the roll blanket under your knees before you spill down. Now, before you spill down, we're going to be opening up the heart. Think about the desires of the heart and how we tend to chase what pleases us. We tend to go after things that we know are going to give us gratification because there's a little temporal high that comes with that. And that's part of the chase, right? The chase in life is to recreate those moments, to recreate those feelings. But that's also something we need to detach from, because if we're constantly looking for that gratification, unfortunately, we could be using devices that could lead to addiction. Okay, so let's just figure out how we want to use the blankets. And then the bolster will come to the low back and we'll just spill down over it. And then fan your arms slightly away with your palms turned open. If you need another prop or anything, just give me a wave. I'll be happy to bring it to you. Consider not only do we have the desires of the heart, what we tend to chase for that gratification, but we also have our heartstrings towards the people, places, and things that we prize, things that we love and adore. Feel the contour of your body here. How the belly's expanding, how your chest is uplifting. Your only task here is just to drop into a state of being and be mindful of your breathing. Follow with your mind's eye, 12 more breaths. Go ahead and start to slide the feet back on the next in breath. Roll over to your right side on your out breath. Push into your left hand, up. And turn your bolster sideways. And sit right on the edge. Sit at the edge where your pelvis kind of tips forward and your knees kind of lower down, even if they don't touch the floor. Flip your hands open. Lift your heart and head up. And just check in to see how you feel from the inside out, mind to body. Hopefully you have freed up some stress and worry. Hopefully you had time to reconnect to your higher self. Hopefully you learned something that you can take forward with you beyond the space. Bring your hands together to prayer position at your heart. The light within me honors and respectfully bows to the love and light within each of you. Okay, it's what we needed.
Yeah, do you? Oh, that's funny. I do too, but it's just because of my hair. I think all redheads look like. Hey, thanks you guys for joining.